Hey there, it's Laura here from makingcardsis.com. Welcome to another Saturday Sunday carding video. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to create a really fun tag with a special mermaid effect. So I started out by die cutting a white tag using some Winnie and Walter dies. And then I'm going to use some painter's tape to hold down my stencil. This is the Medicine stencil from Winnie and Walter, and I'm just going to use some painter's tape to hold down my stencil. Then I wanted to create an ombre effect with embossing paste since it has been a really long time since I used embossing paste. This is the white embossing paste from Wendy Vecchi, and I just pressed my ink pad onto my crafter sheet. This is the Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink pad, and I'm just using my spatula to mix the paste with the ink. And I wanted that blue a little bit darker, so I just went ahead and added some more ink, and then I had a darker blue color. So I applied that paste to my cardstock, and then I'm moving on to my next color. This time I'm using peacock feathers for my mid-tone blue, and I'm just going to apply that paste to my paper as well. So I'm not going to worry about applying it evenly because I will be scraping off all of the excess paste later in the video. So next I'm going to use tumbled glass to create my lightest blue color. And I'm always cleaning my spatula tool in between mixing colors. So then I'm using my scraper tool or my spatula to remove all of the excess embossing paste. If you don't have this specific tool, then you could use a really thick piece of cardstock, or you could use an old credit card as well. So I'm just going to scrape that off, and then I'm doing that again because I really didn't want any harsh lines. So I'm just going to move my way from the top to the bottom and then from the bottom to the top, just to make everything look really soft and kind of like a blended look. Then finally, I'm going to apply some Tim Holtz Rock Candy glitter to this piece. I'm just applying it here and there, so I didn't apply it all over the piece. Since I created a mermaid tag, I had to use some actual mermaids on this card, of course. So I'm using the Mermaid for You stamp set from Blonde Fawn, and I'm going to color the hair first. I am using E27 to add my first layer of shading. And as you can see, I'm kind of flicking my brush to make it look like actual strokes of hair. So there are a lot of different techniques and videos on how to color hair with Copic markers. I'm not a very good Copic person, or I'm not that good at coloring with Copic markers, so I wanted like a really easy technique. So I just went ahead and used that darkest color to add my first layer of shading. And then I'm going in with a lighter color, E25, to blend out that dark shading. And then finally, I'm going back in with my darkest color just to do the exact same thing like I did in the first step. So I'm flicking my brush to add some shading to the hair. And I really like how this turned out, and it wasn't that difficult at all. So be sure to try it out. Then for the skin, I'm using E53 to add some shading. And then I'm going to use the E50 color to blend out that darkest color. So this is also a really easy way to add some shading to the skin. I'm going to use the E53 just once more to add a little bit more shading here and there. Then I'm going to color the mermaid's tails. I am using YG59 first to add my shading, and then I'm using the YG93 to blend that out. And then finally, I'm going over that tail with the BG13. This is a little trick that I learned from Kelly Marie from Lawn Fawn, and I just really love these colors together. It really makes it look like an actual mermaid tail, so it's super cool. So now that I colored the mermaid's tails, it's time to color the tops. I'm going to color a yellow top with the Y04, and I blended it out with the Y000, and then I'm going back in with the Y04 to add some extra shading. Then for the pink top, I'm using RV14 to add my first layer of shading. And then I'm blending that out with the RV13. As you can see, you can get some really nice shading with only 2 Copic markers, so you don't really need a bunch of markers to create some really nice shading. So then finally, I'm just going back in with the RV14 to add some extra shading here and there. Then for the crown, I used a YR21, and then I'm using Y32 to blend that out. Then for the little tiara, I am using Y04 and RV13. I didn't add any shading to this tiara since it's just so tiny. So I die cut all of these images with the coordinating dies on the Mermaid for You stamp set from Lawn Fawn. And then I assembled the crown and the tiara to my mermaids with foam adhesive. And I'm going to color this rock from the stamp set, and I'm using N6 to add my first layer of shading. And then I'm using N4 to blend it out. This time I will be using 3 markers instead of 2 because it was just a little bit easier to shade this particular image. Then I'm using N3 to blend the medium color with the lightest color. And then finally I'm going back in with the N6 to add a little bit extra shading. And then I was finished with that piece. Also going to stamp some coral, and I'm using the red sangria ink from the ton to stamp that, and then I use the coordinating die to die cut that. I really like to use vellum lately, so I'm going to create a vellum banner for this card. Using some kitchen flour to make sure that my embossing powder doesn't stick all over this piece. You can also use a Martha Stewart embossing tool, or powder tool I mean. And I'm going to stamp my greeting with some Versamark ink, and then I'm using gold glitter embossing powder from Wow. Wow embossing powder is my favorite brand or favorite kind of embossing powder. They have a huge assortment of colors, and I just really like the quality. After heat setting that, it's time to assemble this card. So I'm using some foam strips to adhere my white piece of cardstock to a note card from Hero Arts. And then I'm going to adhere my mermaid tag to this white piece of paper with some foam adhesive. So I let that embossing paste dry for about 45 minutes, and then it's ready to use on a card. I'm adhering that rock with some Tamomono multi-adhesive, and then I'm going to adhere the mermaid with foam adhesive, and it looks like she's sitting on the rock, which is super cute. Then I wanted to show you how I adhered my vellum banner. I adhered some of the coral over there, and the glue was still wet, so I could still lift that up. And then I adhered my vellum banner with some glossy accents, and I just pressed that for a while just to make sure that it's stuck there and that it can't move anywhere. Then finally I'm going to adhere my other little mermaids with some foam adhesive. And then to finish off this card, I'm just going to use some sequins here and there. I'm mixing some glass slipper sequins in the ton along with a mix from Lucy's cards. So that's it for this week's Saturday Stem Day carding video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!